Hi everybody, this is Josh and I work for TechSmith. I make a lot of Camtasia Studio tutorials. Now we've shared this with you before, but we usually, when we're making one of our finished, more polished tutorials, we usually record our audio separately as opposed to doing it right at the same time we're recording the screen action. And what we're looking at today is the same case. What I have here is an audio editor, it's Audacity, but I want to be clear that the audio that I'm editing here in Audacity is for a more polished tutorial. We want this audio to be as clean as possible. It's not for a casual tutorial or walkthrough like you're watching right now. This is something that we've gone to the studio to record. We've got a good clean recording. This tutorial isn't about recording. We have other tutorials about that, so this is just editing. This was actually recorded with a handheld recorder, and I'd like to edit this for use in Camtasia Studio. So the first thing, probably one of the more crucial things to do right away is to notice the project rate, and that's down here in the left corner. And this was recorded at 4800. I believe that's just what the settings were on the handheld recorder. And I want to change that project rate to 44.1. Audio with that rate is going to work much better in Camtasia Studio. So I changed my project rate to that. And the next thing is it was recorded also in stereo. You can see the two tracks here, both a left and a right. So I'm going to split the stereo track to mono. And in Audacity, click the little drop down. That'll make two identical mono tracks, and I can just get rid of either one, doesn't matter. Close that one out. And now that I'm ready to edit my audio, the first thing I do is I try to find a tiny little bit of white noise, about a half a second or so. I'm trying to find a bit of white noise that I can repeat end to end and have it sound just like continuous white noise. And this can be a little tricky sometimes, but let's go ahead and try it. I need to zoom in here. And looking at the waveform, I'm just trying to pick out some white noise. That little bit right there had some definite moving, some noises in it, so I'm going to skip that. Okay, this sounds cleaner. So I'm going to try to just grab about a half a second of that audio there. And here's how I test to see if the white noise is good. I hit Control C to copy that. And then I'm going to make a new track. And I'm going to mute this existing track up here because I don't want to hear this. I'm going to go to the start of this track. And I'm going to paste this. And I can't just paste it once because I already heard it once. That's not a big deal. What I want to do is paste it 4, 5, 6 times. And then go back and listen to what it sounds like when I paste it end to end. Because sometimes you think you have a good little bit of white noise, but when you paste it end to end, you get this boop, 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 and we don't want that. We don't want a noticeable pattern to come through in our white noise. So I'm going to listen to this now. Okay, and in this case, I got pretty lucky, I think, and I pasted that 4 or 5 times in a row, and it sounds just fine. If you happen to go through, you paste that 4 or 5 times, and you hear that noticeable audio pattern, just clear it out. Try to find another half second of white noise, keep pasting it down there. What I'm going to do is when I go down and I go through this other audio track, and at this point I can mute this one and get rid of this and come back to my original track and unmute that. So when I find some audio that I'd like to get rid of, instead of just straight deleting it, I'm going to paste white noise in its place. That I feel gives me some consistency with the track, and when later when I'm all done editing it and I'm looking to use some noise removal, the audio editor is finding the same bit of white noise over and over and over again, and to me it just seems like it gets rid of the white noise that much more effectively as opposed to bits of silence or bits of inconsistent white noise that might have a slight pattern to it. So right out of the gate, I've developed this habit where I make my first 5 seconds of my track pure white noise. And a lot of what we're going to be doing today when I go down this audio track is not only using audio clues, but using a lot of visual clues as well. So I'm looking for tiny little blips. For example, obviously this part of audio right here, it doesn't matter what that is. I know that that was not anything part of the script that we recorded. That's just some noise because I can just tell by looking at the waveform. So I'm not worried about getting rid of that. I don't need to preview that and listen to it and see what it is. What I can do is I can just go and grab all of this, the beginning of this audio track. That half second of white noise is on my clipboard, so I can just use Control V. And then I use the arrow key to go to the end of where I just pasted, the right arrow key. And then I can Control V again, arrow key, Control V again, And for the beginning of this track, I'm trying to build out about 5 seconds of good white noise. When we read our scripts, we record line by line. We record those lines sometimes multiple times. So now I'm going to start to go through this audio track and find all of the unusable takes. Okay, I'm back. I found the first take that I'd like to actually just get rid of altogether, and it's just this little bit right here.
Now you're ready to go.
Okay, it doesn't sound bad, but actually this one over here sounds better. So I'm going to just select this and paste the white noise over that take that I do not want. And then while I'm here, I can look at all this visual noise right here, and I'm going to cover that up with some standard white noise as well. And I'll come back after I've cleaned up this entire recording and have just the takes I want. All right, I've worked my way all the way through the audio track. This is a particularly short piece of narration, but I have the takes that I want, and I haven't cleaned up the actual recording as much as I've just removed everything I know for sure that I don't want. And I'm going to do the same thing at the end of this track that I did at the beginning, and that's at about 4 to 5 seconds of white noise, just because I feel like when you have white noise, sandwiching the rest of your audio helps with the noise removal function. So just paste those in there. It puts these lines here. I have never figured out why Audacity does this, and all you have to do is click on them to get rid of them, but you can listen in. That's good white noise there. So that was my first pass through this recording. Now I'm going to go through the recording a second time, and this time through I'm going to listen for the tiny things, the mouth clicks, the breaths. We're trying to get rid of, we're trying to make this audio as clean as possible. You're probably hearing me breathe, you're probably hearing my mouth click, all those things. Again, this is for super polished, as clean as audio as we can get. So for this particular one, I'm going to go through and see if we can find some of those. All right, I'm back. I found a little thing I want to get rid of. You can't even see it. There's not a visible noise for this, at least at this zoom level here. But right between this phrase and this phrase, there's a click. There's basically this click that I don't want to be there. I'll play it. I don't know if you'll be able to hear it or not.
8.
And it's right about here. I don't know if you heard that. It's just like a little click, click. And I'm going to try to get rid of that as well. This is what I do on my second time through the audio, is I try to find these small things. So I'll select the area where the click is, and then instead of deleting, again, I'm going to simply just paste that white noise that I have from earlier. And it was a little bit longer in this case. If I need to go back and trim out some of that white noise, that's okay. You can grab just a little bit there if you want the timing to be exact, and then use the delete key. Cut that noise out.
iOS 8.
Okay, good. Click is gone. Again, I worked my way through the recording, getting rid of all the small sounds that are hard to see in the waveform, but you can definitely hear them if you listen closely. Okay, I found something else. I'm going to get really detail-oriented for a second here. I may be a tiny bit of a perfectionist, and sometimes when I go through these narration files, I find things that some people would completely ignore, and that's probably perfectly okay to completely ignore. You don't need to be this worried about these tiny little noises, but while I'm in here, I don't think they're too difficult to fix, and if we want a really polished piece of audio, sometimes it's worth the work. What we have right here, you're barely going to be able to pick this up, but it's a tiny, you can see it right there. It's a tiny noise in between two different words. And when a noise is directly in between two words that are close together, it's typically pretty hard to actually get rid of it. Covering it up with the half second of white noise from earlier is probably not going to work for this. But I do have another little trick that I can use in Audacity, and that's what we'll cover. Let's give it a listen. I'm not sure if you'll be able to pick it up or not, but we'll try.
And it also needs.
It's just a tiny little mouth noise Really, when one word runs into another and there's some noises that you don't like in between each one, the best way to handle this is actually by just reducing the volume. So that's what I'll do here. I'll select the area where I want to reduce volume. Sometimes this can be at the end of the word. If somebody's K's click too hard, you don't want to get rid of that click, but you can use this technique where you de-amplify the sound so you don't get rid of it, but you do quiet it so it's not quite as noticeable. In Audacity, the de-amplify effect is just in the effects panel. Go to amplify, and I'm going to pull this slider down until I get to negative. I don't know why, but I always pull it down to negative 1.9. There's no science behind that for me, but that's what I do. What it did is it quieted that sound just ever so slightly. And I pick to de-amplify it just a little bit so that I can just listen again and repeat that as many times as I need to until it's quiet enough where it doesn't bug me, but it's loud enough that it doesn't sound like an audio edit. To repeat the same volume adjustment, you can repeat whatever effect you chose last time, and the command for that is Control-R. So that's another one I've learned and I use regularly, is I go in there, I set the amplify once, and then I can go in and press Control-R as many times as I need to. So I'll highlight it again, Control-R, and it has reduced the volume.
And it also needs...
Okay, that's good by me. All right, we're back. I've done my second pass through of this narration. Remember the first time I went through and I got rid of all the takes that I didn't want to use at all. The second time I went through and I either got rid of noises, small clicking noises, those type of things. On the third pass through this narration, what I'm going to be listening for is jumps in volume. So sometimes a narrator might say a phrase and start their phrase really loudly or maybe end it too softly. The start of this phrase down here actually looks like it might start a little too loud. You can see that right there where the waveform is just up higher than the rest of them. Actually, let's dig into that one right now and I'll just show you what I do. So when I come across a phrase like this, it's really just looking at the part that I feel is a little bit too loud and maybe jumps up, it's bolder than the rest of the phrase, selecting just that and going back to the amplify effect. So go to effect, amplify, make sure we're de-amplifying this a little bit, knocking that down. I can repeat that all the way through the track, and the same goes for phrases that maybe need to be a little bit louder. So let's say if I went through and I listened and I found that this was just a little too quiet, I could grab this section, go up to effect, amplify, and maybe amplify it somewhere around the 2.5 range. You can see that the waveform boosted just a little bit. I can listen again.
Use a standard USB cable.
You can always select it again and then hit Control-R to repeat that last amplification. Usually once or twice does the trick.
Use a standard USB cable.
And that's how I handle instances where bits of phrases might be a little too loud or a little too soft. All right, now I've gone through this particular piece of audio 3 separate times, and I'm almost ready to export it for use in Camtasia Studio. The one thing I wanted to show you in Audacity before I did that is the noise removal. Now I'll tell you that I've had just as much luck using the noise removal feature in Camtasia Studio as I have in Audacity. To me, they seem to do the job just about as well. When you do noise removal in Audacity, the first thing you want to do is select a few seconds that you know is pure white noise. Again, it's why we put in that white noise at the beginning of this tutorial. So I'll grab this here. Then I'll go to my effect menu, locate and open noise removal. And then step 1, see this, get noise profile. So I have noise selected and I'm going to tell Audacity essentially at this point, this is the noise. Now that that's done, I'm going to select the entire track, return back up to noise removal again. And we're on step 2, and here's where there's a bunch of sliders that you are more than welcome to play around with. I have honestly not found a need to adjust any of these. Just going to leave them where they are and choose OK. That applies the noise removal to that entire track. I can give it another preview. And I'm not sure how well you'll be able to pick this up, but I'll just check it for my own sanity, see if that noise is gone.
Welcome to TechSmith App Show, a new way to record your iOS device.
Okay, that sounds great to me. At this point, I am ready to export this audio for use in Camtasia Studio. To do that, go to the File menu, choose Export. And I'm just going to export this as a WAV file on my computer that I can open up in Camtasia Studio and use to make my video tutorial. I'm always up for learning myself, so if you've got ways for me to improve what I just showed, put them in the comments. Thanks for watching and listening, and I hope that helps you out with your video tutorials.